Hi lovelies, welcome to my channel. My name is Juliet and today I'll be sharing you 10 do's and don'ts for 4C natural hair that's great for hair growth, length retention and thickness. So before we begin, I just want to let you know that your 4C hair texture is beautiful and you don't have to compare your hair texture to any other hair type that there is. Also, in addition to this video, I would like to let you know that I have written a book on 50 tips and tricks that you can use to grow your natural hair faster and longer, and you can get it if you're interested after this video. I'll leave the link in the description box and I'll also pin the link in the comment section, or you can go to my website Igbocurls.com where you can find it there as well. Alright, so let's begin. My first do tip is this: make sure you section your hair every time you want to wash. I see a lot of tutorials on 4C hair on YouTube where they just wash their hair loose. And as much as I'm a fan of, doing whatever works for you, if you really don't want single strand knots and a lot of shrinkage, and I suggest that you do section your hair. As long as your hair is past your shoulders, you do section your hair, or you wash your hair in twists or braids. Alright, so moving on to my next point, I do suggest that you do trim as often as you can. And I don't mean cutting off all the new growth that you have, no. I do mean that if you do wash your hair loose, if you don't wash your hair in sections like the tip I gave you number 1, then I do suggest that you always check the ends of your hair to make sure you know how healthy they are. And if you seem to notice a lot more breakage and a lot more single strand knots, then I do suggest that you trim. And I usually recommend that people should trim once every 6 months, but then if you feel that your ends are a lot drier and tangle a lot more easily, then I do suggest that you do trim. So number 3 is look for conditioners that have great reviews and have good slip. So that's key, because that way you can find leave-in conditioners that are suitable for your type 4 hair, and it will ease detangling and also keep your hair moisturized for way longer. So leave-in conditioners are extremely important to your hair growth journey. So number 4, as I said, these do's and don'ts are not only for the professionals in the natural hair community but also for the newbies. So moving on for my point 3, I do suggest that 4C hair must be detangled from the ends to the roots. Same goes for every other natural hair type, not necessarily 4C hair, but it is key that you detangle from the ends of your hair to the roots of your hair. That way you have less breakage, and that way you have less tangles, and that way you also have less headache and become less frustrated with your natural hair journey. Okay, you can use a white tooth comb to detangle. You could use a game changer brush, which is the new flexi brush that is the rave in the natural hair community now. Or you could use your fingers, which are absolutely the best, especially if you want to retain the thickness in your hair. I do suggest that you use your fingers. I've been using my fingers since the beginning of my natural hair journey. It takes a bit of practice to get used to finger detangling, and it's also time consuming, but it pays. So it's the kind of thing, it's something that never leaves you when you master it, and it just helps you reduce how much breakage that you would get otherwise when using even a brush or a white tooth comb that is made for the natural hair community. So yeah, so that's my number 4 do. And just so you know, in case you're gonna ask why am I not saying the don'ts, the don'ts are obviously the opposite of the do's. For instance, my number 1 tip, which is to wash in sections, the don't is don't wash in sections. And then number 2 as well, which was trim, is don't over trim, because you end up cutting off all your new growth. So no, I don't suggest that you trim every 2 weeks or every month, no. And then the don't for number 3 is also don't use leave-in conditioners that don't work for your hair and don't even aid with detangling or providing moisture and just sit on top of your hair. No, don't use those kind of leave-in conditioners. And then obviously number 4 is don't comb your hair from the roots to the end. Always go from the ends all the way to the roots, please, especially if you want to have less headaches when you're trying to detangle your natural hair. Alright, okay, so moving on to tip number 5 now. Number 5 is always remember to detangle your hair when it is soft and pliable, and by pliable I mean when it is soft and moisturized. Don't detangle your hair when it's dry. Always use a conditioner or a pre-poo treatment or a moisturizer or a good detangling cream. The products are made just to detangle your natural hair. So my number 6 tip is this: The key to keeping your hair moisturized for longer, I'm gonna have a whole video dedicated to this, but the key to keeping your hair moisturized for longer is layering. And layering basically means how you apply the products to your hair. So depending on your hair's porosity, some people tend to find that applying a leave-in conditioner with a cream and an oil on top of each other helps them to retain moisture for longer, while other people find that leave-in conditioners, oils and creams, which is the LOC method, help to keep your hair moisturized for longer, while others, sometimes me, I love oils, but some others as well, find that when you apply leave-in conditioners and creams, and these creams could pass for butters as well, so it depends on the formula of the product. So some people find that just leave-in conditioners and creams work well for them. So it's important that you play around and find out what works for you. There's no rule of thumb in terms of how you should layer your product. So the key is to make sure that you find out which order that is best for your hair to stay moisturized for longer. So my next point is gels can be very drying to natural hair. So do use gels, smaller quantities and sparsely. So in like 6 months, don't only do gel styles, because gels aren't moisturizers and they end up drying out your hair. So do use gels, but then be smart with it. Don't use it all the time, and even if you do try to incorporate it in your regimen, make sure that it does not come in the way of you moisturizing your hair, because some gels are extremely dry and they can actually act as a barrier to prevent your hair from being moisturized and from staying moisturized. So on the subject of styling, since we're talking about gels already, my next point is 4C hair can actually be styled in many different ways. Don't let anyone tell you that 4C hair is hard, it's stubborn, it can be, you know, we can't do updos. It's a lie. And I've got like so many videos on hairstyles on my channel that has to do with celebrating, you know, type 4 hair, and, you know, wearing it in different styles for different occasions, for work, for events, for weddings, anything. Your hair is your crown and it's beautiful and it's enough. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And then obviously if you want more hairstyle inspiration, you can go through my channel to see what hairstyles you would like to try and you like to watch and try. And then also don't forget to tag me on your pictures on Instagram. So when I see it, I always repost it on my story. Another thing to note is, so even if your hair is medium length and not as long as mine, always remember that like you can still achieve some of the styles that I do, because most of the styles that I do right now are the same styles that I used to do when my hair was way shorter and when I used to have hang time. So it's just a case of, you know, knowing where to place the bobby pins so you don't show. And if, you know, I do a style that comes that, you know, I have to take this part all the way here, you could add extensions, or if you don't want extensions, you could simply just like stop in the middle and then, you know, be creative, and in that way you come up with styles that I haven't even done myself. So it's really a case of like just learning your hair, you know, playing around with different styles and knowing what works for you. So another do is do try DIYs. I personally love DIYs. I personally love making my own products. I personally love trying new products in the market as well commercially. So do be open to trying DIYs. You never know what you find that works amazing for your hair. I have lots of DIY videos. My hair loves Rasul clay, my hair loves bentonite clay, it loves clays. My hair loves aloe vera. Oh jeez, aloe vera is king with my hair. Find out what works for you. Try DIY, different DIYs, even rice water. Try to see what works for you and incorporate it in your regimen. So that's a do. However, a don't is, don't think that these DIYs can grow your hair like instantaneously. It's relative, you know. Sometimes everyone is different, so it might work differently for someone else. It could help them stimulate hair growth. So it really depends on, you know, your lifestyle, everything. So yes, so do try DIY. All right, so tip number 10 is also on styling, and I will suggest that if your goal is length retention and keep as much hair that grows out of your scalp on your head, then I do suggest that whatever styles that you do, make sure that they are protective. And even while they're protective styles, make sure that your hair underneath, if it's box spray or an extension protective style, make sure that they are not forgotten. Make sure your hair stays moisturized and healthy underneath, so that at the end of the day, that new growth that you have while your protective styling stays and doesn't break off. Don't forget that you can purchase my book, 50 Tips and Tricks to Grow the Natural Hair Faster and Longer, on my website Igbocurls.com. The link is pinned in the description box below. I hope these do's and don'ts for your 4C natural hair will help you grow your natural hair faster and longer. And thank you all so much for watching and staying till the end. Don't forget to live well, live great, and pray always. God bless you. God loves you. Take care, lovelies. Mwah. Bye-bye. You can use a white toothbrush to detangle. Toothbrush. What? You can use a white tooth comb to detangle.